everybody, and welcome to another Top 5 board gaming video. Today we are going to be talking about something that a lot of people believe is pretty much inevitable at some point or another. I personally blame TV and movies. But today we are going to be talking about games that are all about the apocalypse. Now this can mean a lot of different things, and obviously again we've got plenty of movies and TV shows to go around that discuss it from numerous different angles. I'm going to talk about some games that I really enjoy that go into this topic. Now obviously it's kind of a weird thing, right? Because it's the apocalypse. It's supposed to be bad, right? But of course, bad things always make for great entertainment for those of us who are just sitting here being like, oh, well, if it was me, then I would totally do blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, if it was me, I would be like, oh my God! That would pretty much be me in the nuclear apocalypse, or pretty much any other apocalypse for that matter. But suffice to say, I think it's going to be a fun time. As always, let me know what you guys think of this particular topic. It's kind of weird, but you know, thematically, it's kind of fun as well because, again, in a way, it's kind of like schadenfreude for us. Because it's like, oh, well, I'm just glad I'm not that dude, right? But either way, we're going to go right on ahead and get started with my number 5. At number 5, I've got a game that takes a sort of satirical look at the nuclear apocalypse. This is actually a game that came out during the Cold War, so I guess you can call it sort of catharsis for the time, and even now, or maybe even more so now, we need that type of catharsis in our games as well. The game itself is Nuclear War. So like I said, this game was originally released in, I want to say it was the 60s if I'm not mistaken, and it was recently re-released through Kickstarter, and that's where I got my copy. The idea behind this game is that everybody is playing as a nation and you are launching various nuclear devices of different sorts. And so you can launch just like a regular missile and not have it have anything, or you can launch a missile and have it contain a nuclear warhead of some sort. You can also use propaganda in order to bring enemies' populace into your own so that you have more people and all sorts of crazy stuff like that. The thing is that strategically, there's not really a whole lot here, to be honest. The thing is, again, it's meant to be like a weird, wacky, satirical game. It's not meant to be taken seriously. It's meant to be fun and crazy, you know? I mean, that said, it does really show what nuclear war would probably be, where when one person starts it, then everybody is just going. And in this particular case, war ends when a country is out of the game. That is one reason why I really don't particularly like it mechanically, is because you do have player elimination, but the game itself tends to be fast enough that you don't have to worry that much about it. So it is a fun, crazy, wacky, weird game that in the end is about nuclear apocalypse. So yeah, if you're into it, it's a really fun little game. Find somebody who has it, find someone who has the original, try it out. It's really super crazy. Nuclear War, my number 5. At number 4, I've got a game that has a theme that you would be really shocked to not see on a list like this, where we're talking about various apocalypta of different sorts. The game itself is Zombicide. That's right, we are talking about the zombie apocalypse now rather than nuclear apocalypse. So in this case, for those of you who haven't played it, Zombicide is a tile placement game, or rather you set up tiles and then you're moving miniatures around it. So the idea is that you've got your character and you're moving them and you're shooting zombies and slashing and hacking and all that kind of stuff. And it is a scenario-driven game, so similar to things like D&D and stuff like that, the D&D board game that is not the tabletop necessarily. But either way, this is a fun, crazy, apocalyptic game. I love the character progression you have, the fact that all the characters really do feel pretty different. The miniatures are really gorgeous. There's also a ton of expansions for it. I'm not as big of a fan on that particularly personally, but the base game itself is really good and definitely worth picking up if you like that type of game. Again, you do get a lot of variety with the different scenarios, and if you really want, you can come up with your own stuff as well. It's a lot of fun. And of course, it's zombie apocalypse. What is more current and modern than zombie apocalypta stuff of various sorts? Either way, fun game, and my number 4. At number 3, I've actually got the one game on this list that I personally do not own, but I do have a placeholder for it that sort of set into motion some like sort of stream of consciousness type thinking for me. Don't worry, we won't go too far into it. That said, my placeholder is Car Wars from Steve Jackson Games. The actual game itself is Roadkill Rally. Now, Roadkill Rally in and of itself reminds me of Death Race 2000, which is probably one of my most favorite weird, stupid, crazy movies of all time, right? And in the end, the idea is that we're in the post-apocalypse and they have this death race every year where people are literally driving around trying to kill as many people as possible. Go and watch it if you haven't done so already. It's got David Carradine and Sylvester Stallone. It's pretty awesome. That said, Car Wars is a sort of arena battle game where you similarly have a bunch of cars that are equipped to the teeth and ready to do battle and fight and all this kind of stuff. Essentially just a more massive demolition derby. Roadkill Rally as a game is more about the race itself. And again, very similarly to the movie Death Race 2000, if you've seen it, you get extra points for hitting pedestrians and all that kind of stuff. In addition, the Roadkill Rally is a tile placement game. So you've got a lot of sort of powers from the individual tiles that you get. So you get different bonuses, boosts, and you've got hazards, all sorts of crazy stuff like that. It's actually fairly in-depth strategically speaking, and on top of that, it's just really fun. You get a lot of cool stuff with it. In addition, you actually have your own little role that gives you different abilities and different powers. It's a lot of fun. That said, both of these games collectively remind me of the movie Idiocracy. I don't know if you guys have seen that before, but essentially it's about a far distant future where everybody is just tremendously stupid, and a person of average intelligence from our modern times goes forward and essentially becomes the smartest man on the planet. Now, for some reason, I've been thinking about that movie a lot the last week, but I honestly don't know why. Either way, collectively, the Roadkill Rally / Car Wars, the replacement for it, or the placeholder for it, are my number 3 Apocalypse game. At number 2, I've got a game that I reviewed actually quite a while ago that has this really great apocalypse feel, and it's probably the one that has the most sort of traditional apocalypse feel, so thinking like Mad Max type of thing, essentially. The game itself is Raid and Trade. In this game, this is another tile placement character progression game, and in this one you're going to different locations trying to find various items and objects and stuff like that, and you're trying to complete quests. So you're trying to collect some amount of a specific item and do this, that, and the other thing, all this kind of stuff, right? And again, as far as the, I guess, traditional apocalypse is concerned, where it's, you know, like everything is scarce and nobody trusts anybody and all that kind of stuff, and not like zombie apocalypse type of thing, but just dystopian future type of thing, Raid and Trade really gets that more traditional aspect to it, where it's good to work on a team if you can, but as soon as it becomes convenient, you gotta make sure that you turn on your compatriots and take all of their stuff. Now, I know that sounds more like Munchkin than anything else, but really it's in this game as well. And there is a very, very large amount of depth to this game. Again, like many of these tile placement games, you've got a lot of abilities, a lot of items, a lot of different quests that you're able to go on, all sorts of different stuff. So you've got a lot going on with this, and in addition, the company actually relatively recently released an expansion as well. I personally don't have it, but I've heard that it's pretty decent at least. Either way, Raid and Trade, my number 2 game about the apocalypse, because mostly it's about a very traditional apocalypse. And number 1, I hate to say it, but we gotta go back to a very popular modernist take on apocalypse. We are talking about Dead of Winter. Now, the fact is that this game combines a lot of amazing aspects, not only game mechanically, but also thematically in terms of sort of the apocalypse scenario type of thing. For those of you who haven't played, yes, this is another zombie apocalypse game. The fact is, though, that the way this works psychologically is beyond any other game that I have ever seen, and I do not say that lightly. This whole thing where it says this is a crossroads game, the crossroads is an actual mechanic within the game where the person to your left, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's been a while since I played, maybe it's to your right, doesn't matter, either way, draws a card and looks at it. As you are taking your turn, then maybe the card will activate, maybe it won't, you don't know. And the idea is that on each card there is a very difficult decision that you have to make, where it comes down to, you know, like a character has to die, or you have to get rid of like a whole bunch of supplies, or you lose a bunch of items, or you have to go back to the base or something like that, or you know, you have to fight off a bunch of zombies, or you know, all sorts of different stuff like that. There is a huge stack of these different cards, and again, some of them are extremely specific, some of them require that a person be playing as a certain character, moving to an exact location even. You know, there's all sorts of different stuff like that. But this is I mean, for lack of a better term at this point, it's a standard zombie apocalypse game. You are going out, you are trying to collect food and gas and medicine so that you can store it all up and essentially just survive to the end. One thing that I love about this game over other games of this sort is the fact that you have a trader mechanic, or potentially do. You've got, everybody has a specific goal that is just for them. This is a cooperative game, but you have an individual goal. And then you potentially have the betrayer. And of course the idea is that they are trying to actively work against the group. So you have a lot of a really amazing social dynamic within this game, and on top of that it's really kind of difficult. But for me personally, it brings up it's very reminiscent of like Shadows over Camelot in terms of how the social interaction goes, because you might not necessarily have a trader. A lot of times people don't really pay attention to others' individual goals because you don't know what they are, and the thing is that even if the group wins, then you don't win individually unless your goal is met as well. So there is a bit of a balance there, but at the same time, the only really important goal is that betrayer goal. But that said, there are a lot of other games like this, but for me, Dead of Winter gets put way over the top with that crossroads mechanic. It's absolutely amazing. It's a tremendously fun game, and again, you are talking about modern apocalypse with a bunch of zombies trying to attack and eat everybody. So you can't really go wrong in that sense, at least, and that's all why Dead of Winter is my number one. Well, everybody, that's it for me. I hope that you enjoyed my top 5 list of my favorite apocalypse-themed games. Now, again, part of the problem with a category like this is that everybody loves zombies. You know, there are a lot of zombie games. There's zombies! And there's also Last Night on Earth. There's also games from The Walking Dead as well. I've actually got a couple of those. So there are a lot to choose from on this. Now, for this video, I did try to go a little bit more thematic, a little bit more solid and things like that. So I hope that you enjoyed it in that sense. But again, there are a lot of great games to this category that do things in a lot of different ways. So I would love to hear what you guys have to say. What are your thoughts on the category? What are your favorite games that fit into this category? And all of that good stuff. But with that, thank you so very much for watching it. I hope you enjoyed it, and now I'm gonna go ponder why it is that I keep thinking about Idiocracy so much.